Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Muslims for Progressive Values. I am your host Kendra Cordova, and today is going to be the first video in a series that I want to work on called Let's Talk, and then we're going to fill in a hot button topic or a question I hear all the time from people. So today is going to be Let's Talk Hijab, right? From a progressive interpretation, progressive viewpoint. We're going to be looking at Quran, Hadith, we're going to be looking at historical context. That's where it gets really interesting, so make sure you stay for that part. And we're going to try to understand what the whole thing about hijab is, right? Before we get into this, I do want to let you guys know, trigger warning, there are going to be some very uncomfortable topics as we get further into it, especially with the historical context. So just viewer discretion is advised. I also want to note that at the end, we're going to go over, there are good reasons to wear hijab. There are also good reasons to not wear hijab, right? We have to come to this with the mindset of, as Allah taught us in the Quran, there's no compulsion in religion. We cannot coerce, we cannot force, we cannot scare, we cannot emotionally manipulate somebody into doing something because we think they should be doing it. Anything that someone does needs to come from the heart, needs to come from a place of honesty, love, and that connection to Allah. Regardless of which choice it is, this is where that mindset needs to be. I want to note that if you force somebody to not wear a hijab and to take it off, like places like France, that is awful. That's terrible. You should never force a woman to show more of herself or dress in ways that make them uncomfortable. And also, forcing someone to wear one is the exact same as forcing someone to take one off. To decide that I'm not going to respect you, or you have to dress the way I want you to, or else I'm going to threaten you, curse you out, beat you, talk about how Allah hates you, and it does not matter which direction you're going to be coming from for this. Either one is unacceptable. They're not supposed to be controlling women, their bodily autonomy, their creative expression, or anything like that. So let's get into what is Islam, what is the Quran, what is the Hadith, what does the history say about hijab. Hijab, as we know it today, is going to be that headscarf that you see women wearing. A lot of women follow a certain interpretation that claims that you can only show your hands, face, and feet. This is from a hadith where the Prophet Muhammad, saw a woman who was very scantily, thinly dressed. Her clothes were very thin on her. And he said, hey, once you reach puberty, you really shouldn't be shown anything but. And he gestured with his hand. Now, he did not list anything. He did not give a bunch of description. He simply gestured, So a lot of people took that to be hands, face, and feet. Other people take it to be just neck up, face, feet, we're going to go over that. But what does the Quran say, first of all? So the Quran doesn't use hijab as a headscarf. It uses a khimar, or khimar is another pronunciation there. And then it does use jilbab, which is that sort of dress over covering thing we're going to talk about here in a minute. The first verse that usually comes up about hijab or headscarves and modesty for women is going to be Surah 24, Ayah 31. So tell the believing women to reduce some of their vision, lower their gaze, guard their private parts, not expose their adornments, and wrap their headscarves over their chests. This is where they say khimar. So headscarves over their chest, head covers over their chest. The assumption here is that they're already wearing one. It doesn't say tell the women to wear headscarves and that they should be over their chest. It says tell them to wear, take their headscarves. The assumption is they're already wearing it and put it over their chest. So we're really talking about the modesty of making sure that your chest is covered, that you're not doing the V-neck topless thing. When we get into the historical context, this is going to make a lot of sense. Again, this is going to get very uncomfortable when we add that historical context, but basically that's what it's saying here. So some people are going to take that as it's implying that you should be wearing a headscarf and that it needs to cover your chest. Other interpretations being that you need to focus on covering up your chest. Also notice that there is not a punishment listed here, right? It's not the people who don't cover their chests are evil, or they're going to hell, or the people that don't cover their chests are sinful, whatever it is. A reason is actually given in a different ayah, which I'm going to share with you in a minute, but just notice that there's no punishment. Now, some people are going to say, well, Allah tells you to do it, it's not your job to question. Therefore, if you don't follow it, you are being sinful. Now, that is a very conservative interpretation of this. Obviously, with the progressive viewpoint here is that we need to understand context. We need to understand wording, language. What is it talking about? All of that. Because if we want to do best by Allah, we need to look into it. We need to understand what was really being said and why was it being said. Does it apply now? Remember that tomato of wisdom that I always talk about, right? Knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put a tomato in a fruit salad. So we have, yes, it says cover your chests. It says that these people are wearing a headscarf. Let's see if we can understand what that means within the context of society, right? So we're going to talk about what it means to, understand that as we go. But I want to bring up this second verse for you guys. So Surah 33, Ayah 59 says, O Prophet, tell your wives and your daughters and the women of the believers to bring down over themselves part of their outer garments. This is where it uses jalabib. That is more suitable, that they will be known and not abused. That last part is key, and this is where I started doing research earlier in my faith and like some of my studies, and this is where it gets crazy because most people do not learn what was going on at the time and sort of like the class systems and stuff. So listen to that one more time. Tell your wives, the daughters, and the women of the believers to bring down themselves part of their outer garments. That is more suitable, that they will be known as believers and not be abused. So when people read this, they often think, oh, it says, if you wear this headscarf, make sure you're covered. This says, I am a Muslim, and therefore I am a pious person. No, that is not what it is talking about as far as being known as a believer, to not face abuse or harassment. So first thing, this is where it's going to start getting comfortable. The first thing I'd like to bring up is, shout out to Allah for pointing out that men have a history of being abusive and predatory and harassing women. That is noted here. One time I did have a guy bring up, the whole hijab thing. I was like, it tells you to wear hijab. And I was like, could you please finish that verse? Could you tell me what is the reason that is given? Is it because she's going to go to hell if she doesn't? What is their reason? So that you will be seen as a believer and not be abused. Okay, let's talk about that. Here's the historical context. So if women of the time from places around the world wore headscarves of various types, why would slightly more modest versions signal that someone was a Muslim? And why would that reduce her chance of abuse? The answer is slavery. So we're going to do a Let's Talk Slavery video later down the line, but just remember that while Islam set rights for slaves, it was very progressive for its time. It also created this reduction and eventual abolition of slavery through things like, a child that's born of a slave and a freed person is automatically free, the freeing of slaves for good deeds, and all of those other things. We have to remember slavery was still a thing. Yes, Islam was extremely attractive to a lot of freed slaves. The first martyr of Islam, being Sumaya bint Kia. I'm terrible with my Arabic. I really apologize, guys. But she was the first martyr of Islam. She was a freed black woman. And she, died for Islam. So even though it was attractive to even slaves or freed slaves, because for its time it was very progressive, slavery was still a thing. It was a thing. A lot of the slaves were from war, right? They were like the prisoners of war, and you were allowed to take them. You'll see like within the Quran saying things like the people that your right hand possess, right? That which your right hand possesses, meaning slaves. What does this have to do with hijab? Slaves wore fewer clothes and were subject to more sexual abuse and coercion, etc. These slaves were often not Muslim. So the Muslim women were supposed to dress a certain way to show their status as a free woman and not be confused as a slave or a concubine. You don't have to just believe my word. You don't have to take my word. Let's take some scholarly words on this. Just a couple examples. I have some from the Hanafi school, Maliki, Shafi. Like, I've got multiple examples here, guys. I don't even have time to go over all of them. We're just going to list a couple. Hanafi scholar Imam Jassas wrote in his legal rulings of the Quran, volume 3, quote, a man could see the hairs, arms, calves, chest, and breast of a slave woman of another person, meaning even if she's not your slave, you can totally look at her. That's fine. Some of the reasons given for them wearing less clothes was because they were doing manual labor. The other stuff is just because a lot of them were concubines and they were there to be looked at. So it's not bad to look at a woman if that woman is a slave. Yeah. So here's another Hanafi one. Imam Ibn Hazm recorded in his Al-Muhalla Khitab, volume 10, Abu Hanifa, who he was talking about, was not shy to say that a slave woman can pray naked and people can observe her breast and waist. A woman can purposely show the parts of her vagina during prayers and can be observed by whoever enters and leaves a mosque. Let that sink in for a minute. The verse in the Quran that says that you should cover yourself with more of your clothing, cover yourself with more of your headscarf, were not because it's not okay to look at a woman. It's because it denotes that you are of a higher status and should be treated with more respect than a slave. And the slaves, the men can look at them all they want. So it's not about respect for women. I need to make that clear for you guys. Now, it might be, in certain circles today, that might be your experience with it. And I'm not going to say that that experience is invalid. Like I said, I'm going to go into good reasons to wear hijab nowadays and all that. But please understand that it wasn't that women with certain body parts need to cover those certain body parts. It is specifically so that the Muslim women are seen as in a higher status and have more autonomy over their body than the other women do. Maliki, school of thought, book is Al-Shar al-Zahir. A man can see more of the body of a slave woman compared to what she can see of a man. A man is allowed to see her whole body naked except for the part of her body between, can see her whole body naked. She cannot see the part of his body between his navel and his knees. So he can see her body between certain parts. And then Shafi, the book Al-Muhdab bi Fiqh, so fiqh, being legal rulings. Al-Shafi says, quote, the aura, so that's supposed to be the part that they claim is like the sacred part of a woman. The aura of a slave woman is between her navel and knees. So according to that school of thought, topless is still good. You can still see them topless. You can see their hair. You can see all that stuff because she's a slave. And it's not bad for a man to look at a slave like that, according to this. Whew. So for more information on this kind of stuff, there's this great book, so Status Distinctions, Institutorial Difference, Slavery, Sexual Ethics, and the Social Logic of Veiling in Islamic Law. And this is by Omar and Chasi. So look that up, write it down, look that up if you want more information on this topic. I do want to share with you guys 5 good reasons to wear a hijab and 5 reasons to choose to not wear a hijab. Again, this is a personal experience. There are lots of different experiences with this, right? Nowadays, there isn't slavery, so we're not having to take it into that context. So again, let's talk about this. 5 good reasons to wear a hijab. Number 1, you believe that Allah wants you to because of your interpretation of the Quran or Hadith. So you're doing it for Allah, for your relationship with Allah. As long as you're not putting down others or trying to make other people, do it your way because that's the way it is. That is a great reason to wear a hijab. You should wear it if that's what that is for you. Number 2, you want to emulate early Muslim women like the Prophet's wives who wrapped clothes over themselves in hadith. Again, great. So you look to them, you think they are great and smart and powerful and talented, and you want to be more like them. This is what they wore. You want to wear that. Again, that is a great reason to wear hijab. Number 3, culture and tradition. If you see headscarves as a part of your cultural identity or your Islamic identity, you should do that. I do turbans now. I used to do a mix of full headscarf hijab and then turbans. I'm going to do a whole separate video on my experience with headscarves, but basically with me being non-binary, headscarves felt very feminine to me. They felt kind of like I was wearing a costume, but I still wanted to wear some sort of head covering because even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, wore head coverings. It connects me to Islam. I put it on and I think about, being the best Muslim I can be today and all of that. So I, have a positive reason for wearing it. But if it's part of your culture or your tradition or your Islamic identity, that's a great reason to wear one. Number 4, extra modesty makes you more comfortable and confident. If you just like to be covered and you don't want to be showing off a lot of yourself and you feel comfortable and confident wearing hijab or, just the full Islamic dress, that's great. Do that. Number 5, personal style. You just love wearing it. If you want to wear one, you can wear one. It's you, right? I've actually had people ask, well, I'm not a Muslim. Can I wear one? Yeah. Muslims don't own the right to wearing headscarves. Anybody can wear a headscarf. So keep those in mind. If any of those are your reason, that's a great reason. Absolutely keep wearing hijab. Nobody should tell you to take it off. Nobody should tell you what you need to wear. Okay. However, there are a lot of women that don't wear the headscarf or they don't feel comfortable with it. And a lot of them are scholars, professional women, people that were born Muslim. They just don't have the same experience. So I wanted to share some of those with you guys too. So number 5 reasons to not wear a headscarf other than, you don't like it. Let's see what else there is here. So number 1 is going to be coercion and abuse surrounding modest dress. Sometimes modest dress can be very triggering, especially if you've been wearing it for the wrong reason. If you're doing it because your parents threatened you, if you're doing it because men, forced you to, or the women in your life told you that if you don't, you're a slut, any of this stuff, that is a bad reason. You should not be wearing a hijab for those reasons. If your connection with hijab or modest dress is super uncomfortable and triggering and traumatizing, and you say you don't want to wear it anymore, that's a good reason to not wear it. That's going to ruin your relationship with Allah if you have all that negative energy on it. Number 2, your interpretation of the Quran is that general modesty and covering your chest, etc., is just the interpretation you follow. That is a valid interpretation. I've seen scholars make that case. That is there. It never says hair, never says that the women have to wear a headscarf. So, there are lots of people that follow that interpretation. There's a reason. Number 3, seeing the cover to not be abused, and you look into the history, and you either want to put the responsibility on men to treat you with respect or to treat women with respect regardless of what they're wearing. I've heard this argument. That is a great argument, right? A woman is not responsible for the way a man treats her. There are women who are fully clothed and they still get assaulted. It's not a woman's responsibility to make a man respect you, right? So you maybe have that mentality, or maybe you've read the history and you understand sort of the social context around this. So you don't find it applicable anymore because, again, if the point was to wear it to denote that you are of a higher status than slaves, well, we don't have slaves anymore. So if that whole thing makes you uncomfortable, or you think it's just not applicable anymore, or whatever it is, that's a reason. Number 4 is going to be gender identity and expression. So if you're male, queer male, if you're a non-binary, those expressions might be different than just a feminine hijab, right? So even if you were born a woman, if you're a trans man, or if you are non-binary, whatever that is, we're going to go into gender and Islam more later. I have a lot of videos on it. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, go look at my past videos. But, then, like when you wear it, like when I wear it, I feel like I'm wearing a costume. Like I feel weird wearing it. And then number 5 is going to be medical reasons. I've seen a lot of women not wear them for medical reasons because they have migraines, hair loss from their hijabs, like all of those reasons. So there might be a medical reason for you to not wear a hijab, right? Your story is valid. Your experience with hijab is valid. Your experience with Islam is valid. This is about you, your expression, your relationship to Allah, your relationship to the Quran, your relationship to Islam. So regardless of what side of that you end up on, where on that spectrum you are, I wanted to share this so that we understand that there are a lot of factors that go into the way that a woman or a person in general decides to dress. What modesty means is defined by the context of the situation. It is notable that I've known a lot of Muslims in the West that have ended up taking off the hijab because of harassment for being Muslim. Now, some people might say, well, that's brave and you need to go out and do it anyway. But that is also another concern. They've been, physically assaulted, just threatened, stalked. Like, there are so many things going on, right, at any given time. So understanding that there are a lot of factors that go into the concept of hijab, the history of hijab, modest dress, what that means, and your personal experience with it. So don't forget to like and subscribe if you're looking for a progressive place to give that zakat money. You can go to mpvusa.org to donate or just to learn more about all of these topics and progressive Islam. So like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video, inshallah.